Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space. We talk to CEOs, entrepreneurs, lots of athletes, and again, just people that are doing things that hopefully we can take bits and pieces away from what they're doing and transfer some of them to our own lives as well. So I have a really special guest coming up. Just before we kind of jump into that, this episode is brought to you by Thirdsy. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that Thirdsy is a sponsor of ours, and they create natural products that help athletes and high performers get better quality rest and recovery from physical and mental stress. So their PM Recovery Collagen is a melatonin-free, sedative-free drink powder that helps you get the best quality rest while supporting joint and muscle repair as well. So you take a scoop before bed, and you wake up a lot more energized, ready to take on your busiest days, whether it's at work or maybe your toughest workout the next day too. So go to Thirdsy, that's THIRDZ or ZY.com, and use the code BIBM20, and you get to save 20%. So, and jumping into our interview today, really happy to welcome back actually Christmas Abbott to the podcast. If you don't know Christmas already, she is a real trailblazer in many ways. She's served overseas. She's been a team CrossFit Games competitor in the past, competitive weightlifter, best-selling author, influencer, entrepreneur, and now a talent agency owner, which I know we'll talk a little bit about. Reality TV star, of course. A lot of people will know her from that. And also NASCAR's first ever female pit crew member. So lots of trailblazing things there. And I know, Christmas, since we had you on the show last time, lots has happened. One of the bigger things is that you've actually got married to your Big Brother All-Star co-star Memphis Garrett. So maybe I'll ask that to start with. How's married life been so far?
Uh, well, it's still new.
Yeah.
We haven't even been married a year. You know, we met on the show in August 2020, came out, started dating in November, got married a little bit more than a year later, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost a year. This month will be a year so that we've been
Yeah.
married. So we just jumped in, I guess.
Well,
It's been amazing.
congratulations. Yeah.
Lots of really fun, exciting things.
Very cool. And now, actually, that's kind of a question too. Is that when you, I mean, you've been a very like independent, driven person, and you know, he has businesses and everything else too. How has, like, a lot of people, I'm sure, that listen to this, is, you know, that's combining kind of two families like that. You know, has that been a challenge? Are there things that surprise you about kind of how that came together?
I mean, so we both had one son each, and what surprised us both was like how well they got along immediately. Like when they first met, they were just like instant best friends,
Yeah.
and they, as individual, like single children, but then now as a blended family,
Yeah.
they really like they shine in all of their own little ways, and it's kind of like it's just been really amazing to watch. And that surprised us. I don't know what we expected, but I guess we just didn't expect them to bond so much so quickly. And that's been really amazing to just kind of watch blossom and sometimes hit heads. Uh, also like
Yeah.
merging two households has been challenging, but that's challenging for anybody.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that he saw what I woke up without makeup and like, before.
Yeah, that's true. That's
But
true.
technically we didn't even live together until we got married. So
Yeah,
it's
well,
been
and you
like
did live together quite a bit, I guess, on the show, right? Like technically in the same space
under a
and everything else.
microscope.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's true too. Very cool.
Really
Uh,
like it's been really amazing to like tackle these things together,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a different experience that I've ever had before.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that I think also probably makes you very relatable is that you know, you've been an athlete all your life and all those things. I know that you also had some health issues this year too, which I'm sure there's that kind of you know, a difficulty to go through that. How was that to persevere through when you have always been used to being super active and probably couldn't be anywhere near as active as you normally would have been?
Well, yeah, I've had a couple challenges, and I was actually a later in life athlete too. So I really only
Yeah,
started working out in my 20s, and then I was a competitive athlete in my 30s, which is really odd to think about.
Yeah.
And by the way, I ran wild and did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done in my teens. So I kind of
Yes.
reverse engineer, as I do with everything on my else in my life. I reverse engineer it. But you know, after I broke my foot, I couldn't compete anymore. It just was too much for me. For like I had 10 bones broken in my midfoot, so that was like career ending for my athletic ability at the time. And then I had a cesarean. My baby was just too big, nine
Yep.
pounds.
Yep.
No arguments. And then last year, I had two ruptured discs in my neck. I kind of had a little bit of an incident while we were overseas traveling, and it debilitated me for the last year. So actually, I just got surgery a couple months ago, and I've been
Yeah.
able to work out for the first time in a year. So
Oh, wow.
it's been kind of wild because it's when you tie yourself so much into your physical ability. And
Yeah.
then I think a lot of athletes can, like, especially a lot of competitive athletes go through this. Suddenly that's ripped away from you, and your identity is like, wait a minute, but like this is not my body. This is not my attitude. This is
Yeah.
not how I feel well. And you find other ways to have to channel that. That is, I learned it a few years ago, but I really, really was able to flip it around this past year.
Yeah.
You know, especially with the help of Memphis and the family, but being able to find purpose outside of that too, in a
Yeah.
bigger, more influential way, which actually brought me to a lot of new adventures with
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Well, and and we'll get to that. Maybe just for those people who aren't familiar with some of your backstory about, how you did kind of, you had a real kind of risk taker mentality when you were young and all of those things. That's, I guess, the nice way to say it. And but
Yeah.
then you did kind of have that experience where kind of switch flicked a little bit and you decided to kind of do something different with your life. Tell us just a little bit about that, and so people kind of understand where you've come from that end.
You know, I really love this story, and I haven't dug into a lot of the details, which I'm working on right now. I'd like to continue to try and tell that story because I think that
Yeah.
people wake up one day and they decide to change their life. That's really nice, but most people just struggle to find out how to change their life. Most people struggle to find out like what's their next purpose, and
Yeah.
that's what I hear all the time. They're like, "Oh, but how did you figure it out?" I was really kind of fortunate enough, and maybe unfortunate enough, where I had like the epiphany because I had bombs coming into the camp that I was living in. So I was
Yeah.
working in Iraq as a contractor. And the first few weeks I was there, we had incoming to the camp. And, when you know that you're in a war zone, like when you know that you're in this situation that is so uh, electric
Hmm.
and also dangerous, you have one of two ways to go. You're either going to lean into the destruction, or you're going to flip it and figure out what you have to do for yourself to survive,
Yeah.
and not just survive but like start to thrive. And that's what happened. It just flipped me whenever I realized that I was making all the decisions to end up eventually taking my own life. Then I decided that actually I wanted to live, and I didn't have the mindset then of I'm worthy of this, I'm going to do all
Hmm.
these good things and I'm going to live perfectly. It was all about just like, I want something better. And I had to decide every day, every decision, is this better or is this going to put me back to where I was, basically in my own prison of my personal defeat, right? Like
Yeah.
that victimism that we have all the time that we don't even know that we have it. And so, I mean, it came down to that. It was that simple. I want something better. And then how
Yeah.
do I make that decision? And that really catapulted this now avalanche of where I am in my life.
Yeah.
And I love that. It is that simple. And
Yeah.
you don't have to know what to do. You don't have to know how to do it. You just have to be able to make that decision. I want something better, and then take action. It can be wrong,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you still have to just do it.
Well, and so related to that, you have a number of times taken a real risk to do something new. I mean, and probably things that it's not just a risk personally. There are things where, like I think of if you were the first pit crew member in NASCAR, no, a female pit crew, that's a male-dominated area. Even CrossFit, when you were doing it, and it was probably a pretty kind of male-dominated sport at that time, because it's a little different now, probably thanks to people like you. But anytime you did those things, like how did you, like, is it something that's innate in you just to take that risk, or is it something that you've developed over time?
I for sure believe it's a development. People are like, oh, you just do what you feel. I'm like, if it scares me, I know that there's something inside of me telling me that I'm limiting myself. So with like, I've talked about this a lot, how you lean into your fear, embrace it, like embrace failure. That is the learning process. And that is what you have to go through to discover what you love, what you don't love, what loves you. Like I've been in some situations where, I found something interesting and I was really good at it, but I didn't love it. Right. So it really is about the willingness to try. And failure is only, for me, my definition of failure is only if you quit. So if you don't even try it, of course you failed because you haven't even started. And it really is that mindset of, if you want something different, you have to do something different. So for me, it was, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but eventually I'll learn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still have that like approach. So no, it was not something that, people think that I was that way just because of my wild youth, but my
Yeah.
wild youth was a result of my traumatic childhood. And I was in survival mode and I did things that I shouldn't have done because I was in survival mode. When I came out of survival mode, I was like, well, what scares me more than trying this new thing is going back to my old life. So, and that was, I mean, like when I talk about the decision of something better, it was, I either try something that I don't want to, like grilled chicken and broccoli, or
Yeah.
or this workout, or I never really took into consideration like, what do people think? What is it going to be like? Okay, well, let's just try it because it's something not from the beginning of
Yeah.
my trauma. So I didn't even research a lot of the stuff that I did. I just jumped in and tried it and then found out whether I liked it or not, which, I mean, apparently I have a trend of being in every male dominated industry I
Yeah.
can possibly find: contractor, competitor, and, author, all the things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, just keep this trend going. But it's only because I was willing to try something and I didn't realize that there weren't other women in it. That
Yeah.
wasn't intentional.
Yeah. And so all those things are pretty spontaneous. Do you now, or did you before, like, were you a real goal setter outside of those things? Like, did you say, okay, I want to do these 4 things this year or during this time? Like, how do you approach that yourself? Because you're a pretty spontaneous person, it seems, too.
Well, not necessarily spontaneous, just willing to try something, and so I do have goals. And I've, since I was working in Iraq, I worked 4 years in Iraq. And since I was working there, I realized that you have like these short-term, long-term, and then these legacy goals. And I didn't, and they should all build, like, again, reverse engineering. What do you want your legacy to be? And then build backwards to that. And then what can you do today that works towards your legacy? That every decision should be made towards that. It's like towards something better, towards your legacy. And then it will be easier to discover. It'll be easier to discover what you love and what you don't love, is because you know what you're working towards, even if you don't know what the blueprint is entirely. So for me, it wasn't spontaneous. It was like willing to try. And yeah, I do have goals, but a lot of the times when you're starting out, and this is something that I actually do a lot of coaching on right now, is how to just establish this consistency, establish this mindset, establish the mantra. What's the blueprint look like? What are you actually working for? Who are you doing this for? And from there we can create your brand, right? So I talk about this, but it's really, really difficult to jump in and say, oh, I'm going to eat well every day. I'm going to have this schedule. I'm going to have all these things because these are my daily goals. And then my monthly, weekly, yearly, annual. It really can be overwhelming and daunting.
Mm-hmm.
So I love taking it, and my thing is super simplify,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
stupid simple.
Yeah.
And I love creating that. So actually, that's a couple of the things that I've been doing lately, is just helping people not be overwhelmed
Yeah.
with, oh, I'm changing my life, so I have to do all these things at once. No, you
Yeah.
shouldn't actually. Yeah.
Well,
So I do
and
have goals still. It's just
yeah.
easier to
Well,
align them
and
now.
let's talk a little bit about what you are doing now, because obviously, that it's shifted a little bit because you were very kind of, some of your businesses before were very fitness oriented. It's not to say that's not the case, but then you've went into something that's probably quite a bit different. First of all, why kind of the decision to kind of go into that type of work, like from a talent perspective, and what kind of things are you doing there, and as an entrepreneur from that standpoint?
So, Jamie, I'll tell you like the three projects that I have going on, and we can
Yeah,
dive, and I'll do a little sentence for each one. That way, like
yeah.
collectively what I'm doing. And for me, just getting out of not getting out, but like really kind of not pursuing the heavy fitness um, model for my work was a matter of time, because I love fitness and I think that it's a really great conduit for changing your life. But what I really am about is just like owning yourself, knowing who you are, and being able to live your best you. And that will change over
Hmm.
time. And so I could have made a really great living doing exactly what I was doing before, but then my soul would have started to hurt. And it kind of did for a while, because I wasn't really living my true purpose. And that purpose never changes, but the application changes. So for me, one of the things that I'm really excited to, we'll kind of go in order, I guess, is that this corporate wellness called CAN. It's a multi-month program.
Yeah.
It's a super simple process of mindset, nutrition, movement, not exercising,
Hmm.
movement, and then self-healing. And what we do with that is we implement it into the corporation. We're able to track all this data. It's HIPAA compliant. It's also insurance, like it has certain data points for each insurance. So we can
Yeah.
get a better rate for the insurance and the insured through the company.
Yeah.
That's like basically my fitness career rolled into one beautiful package
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like what I really like to do, and which is educate, elevate, and like empower people to be
Well, it's
able to
kind of
change
a
their life.
whole life approach too, right? It's not
It
just kind
is.
of exercise of what people would think. It's full wellness. So,
Yeah, it is. And it's sustainable, it's how I live my life.
mhm.
And again, like those little goals, it's layered in, as I talk about in my book, How to Layer in Success. It's the
Yeah.
same approach. So I love that I still live by this word, and whatever has changed for time, I've tweaked. But for the most part, all the principles are the same. Almost 20 years I've been living this way.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to be able to share that, especially from the top down versus just person to person. And it's, my business to business. And
Yeah.
then we can, we get to actually expand beyond that. So that's CAN. I'm really excited about that.
Very cool.
That's one of the things. The second thing that I'm doing is actually um, like executive coaching. So exactly what we're talking about right now, kind of what I've told you before. This is a one-on-one coaching process where we kind of examine what you're doing with your life and what your goals are. A lot of these people that I'm coaching want to have a fitness brand. They want to establish like this following. They also want to have like their programs and what they know are their like secrets of the trade, or
Yeah.
like what makes them them. I get to help enhance that, make it into a brand, make it into a workout program, help grow the social media following, and really give them all of the knowledge that I've had over the last 15 years in this industry,
Yeah.
and hyper focus them, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get to use my expertise and my institutional knowledge and give it to somebody else and save them a lot more time and heartache. And that's been really rewarding for me personally.
Yeah.
And then collectively, my husband and I have built a few smaller companies. You can say smaller companies, I guess,
Yeah.
smaller projects. One is the agency.
Mhm.
So people are probably going to find this the most controversial. I don't know if you
Okay.
read my agency bio. Okay,
No, I know a little bit that
a little bit.
it is a different concept. So
All right,
there's not
cool.
much of that out there, I don't think. So yeah.
Yeah, and again, in a very male-dominated industry,
Yeah.
there's OnlyFans, there's Fan Time, there's Lemon Social, there's all these subscription fan pages,
Yeah.
right? So you have, and I will be honest, I have my own subscription fan page,
Yeah.
and people were super shocked to find that out, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Why?" And for me, I put the content that I put out there, and this is something that I really advocate for my clients, is that any content you want out there, be proud of it.
Yeah.
So don't let the fan dictate what you put out. They're coming to your site for you. And for a decade, I was on the cover of a dozen magazines. I literally have them like over here too.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was either implied nude or half naked, and they all made millions off of my body
Yep.
for the same content that now I get to control. And for me, and like, listen, my husband and I work on this together. So for me, it was, why am I now going to be slut shamed for controlling the content and making my own money off of it? And by the way, like, not doing anything that would, like, that is beyond Instagram.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
have you been on Twitter lately? Oh my goodness. I got on Twitter and like,
Yeah.
it just like,
Yeah.
so I was shocked. That's pretty like surprising. So for me, I actually help a lot of these other girls that have either been in the fitness industry or the reality TV industry that
Yeah.
want to have their own page, but they don't want to, and excuse me, you don't have to be banging to be on OnlyFans. Or like, they want to be able to
Yeah.
control their content and have something that is fun and playful and empowering,
Yeah.
but not driven by like, oh, the fan asked me to do this, I have to do that. No, you can tell them no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you own this. This is your platform. So
Yeah.
I feel very passionate about this.
Yeah.
And we've been managing a handful of girls that really, like, we just teach them how to navigate this in a safe way with healthy boundaries that
Yeah.
they stick to. So no matter when and if content gets leaked, it's fine. We actually help them remove it. We just launched this other agency that all of our clients get for free, like it's part of their deal, but content controllers. So anything that gets leaked, we get removed usually super fast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's another level of protection for them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like copyright for a magazine. You can't copy pictures and then sell it. Same
Yeah.
way that you can't just copy this information and put it out there. So we've looked at this in a couple different ways, and I really love what I do because it gives these women like a true empowerment of
Yeah.
what they've kind of gone through with reality TV or
Yeah.
being, pretty much being exploited in whatever that area was. Now they get to take control back.
Yeah. Give them an extra level of protection, I guess, too. That helps as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
And power, like
Yeah.
you don't want it out there, don't put it out there. But, for people like, you're a mom, and they really just try and push me down. And I'm like, look,
Yeah.
you can't change how I feel about, you're the one that bought my magazine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me why you
That's a
bought
good
it.
point. Yeah. Good point. But
Not because I have a great heart.
Yeah,
and I do, but like that
yeah.
cover was not, I wasn't buttoned up head to toe in a
Yeah.
snowstorm.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like,
and I guess that's the one thing, Christmas, is that, I mean, you have a big social media influence, and some of those people that you're talking with as well. Is that difficult when because opportunity comes with that, obviously, but the other side is that you probably have to deal with a lot of negativity and judgment and all of those things as well. And I mean, I even just think of things recently that happened not long ago, and you see videos out there and all that fun stuff. Is that difficult, I guess, from your end to have to deal with that all the time?
I mean, I've been dealing with that since social media began.
Yeah.
People are gonna love you or hate you for whatever reason they decide,
Yeah.
and however they choose to see you is their decision. Nothing I can do usually will change that if they have a negative thought about me,
Yeah.
or opinion. However, like most people, it's kind of just, I don't even care anymore. Like, they have no impact on my life. They
Yeah.
don't know what happens in my relationships. They don't know what happens at my home. And although they want to assume it because
Yep.
they get to see a little clip here or there,
Yeah.
which is probably mostly highly edited and then filtered and all the things.
Yeah.
I just kind of like know that they have some personal inventory to do as for themselves.
Sure.
And I really don't let it affect me anymore. And that's one of the biggest things that I do with coaching with, especially any of the new girls that come into the agency or my
Yeah.
one-to-one coaching that I do for the brand management, is that they're going to come at you regardless.
Yep.
And it's your decision on how to take that with grace or ignore whatever.
Yeah.
But you if you're like the sweetheart with no haters, they are
Yeah.
going to tear you up as soon as you fuck up. So
Yeah. Well,
so be
is
prepared
there a
for
real
it.
difference, Christmas, between what people, I mean, because people all have a perception of you because they see you on TV and things like that. So
Yeah, because that's
do you
real.
yourself think that, yeah, like, yeah, exactly. Do you see kind of what people perceive as you and then think, like, is there a very big difference from your perspective of what people see of you and what you are at home when you're just kind of, by yourself and relaxing with your family?
I mean, that so I probably yes, actually. And this is something that I've talked to with my media group and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I'm actually really silly and quirky and like kind of like silly funny, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, I like make fun of myself. I make weird noises. Make weird faces. Uh, I laugh at my own jokes hysterically. Like I'm definitely that kind of person, and
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that I'm that quirky. And I won't even say funny. I'm just quirky, right?
Yeah.
So it's because I've been what people have seen me is this very serious athlete. Like
Mm.
I get after it, and my mom says, which is hilarious. She's like, when you see it flip, it's like I make a honey badger look like a honey bear, and she's right, but that is my like I have one goal and that is it. So if you come in between, it's never personal. I've never been like, oh, I'm gonna beat this person. I never have looked at anything like that personally.
Hmm.
And because I just see the end goal and I know what I want to achieve and I know how to do it.
Yeah.
So if you happen to jump in my way or like a crossfire, then yeah, I seem highly aggressive because I am highly aggressive for my goal. So from there at home, I'm like, no, we're not gonna have like casual competition. I stay out of that. So I just like I'm like the silly referee, I'm
Yeah.
like I'll throw stuff at people. I'll be like, no, that's not allowed. I'm more of like the cheerleader person in real life
Yeah.
than the bulldozer, right? And
Yeah.
and I just love hanging out with my family. I love being lazy. So,
Who
um,
doesn't? Who doesn't? But I
yeah,
think that people wouldn't think that of you. Like that's the one thing is sometimes it's just, what would people be surprised to know about you? And I think a couple of those things would be the ones because they do often, like even on TV, you're in a situation where it's still a competition regardless. I mean, so there
yeah.
is that, right? So
And also, like, let's go ahead and put cameras in your house for 3 months nonstop, and you don't fuck up. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
see how well, like, on your really hard days where you're just like, I'm over it. Are
There
you
you
gonna
go.
are you gonna have some judgment now? How harsh are you judging?
Yeah.
So that's that, and we joke about it, but at the same time, it's like, no, seriously, these people are the ones that probably need to do some internal reflection the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, not.
Um, so I guess the last thing I thought is that a lot of I think especially young women look at you for your strength and your perseverance, and maybe I'll just ask because you obviously have been working with other people now too through the different businesses you have and things like that. Um, how does that affect you, knowing that those people are looking to you because they do see that strength and perseverance and resilience, and what you can kind of maybe provide them?
Oh, it's kind of funny because like being out of like the circuit of doing the events and everything, you get a little bit more removed. But we whenever Memphis and I go out, we always run into somebody, and it never ceases to amaze me that that impact is still there. Um, and I I don't know sometimes. Like it's, I feel like sometimes I still have like the imposter syndrome. Like, oh man, that was a
Sure.
lifetime ago. What am I doing now?
Yeah.
But I'm proud. Like I'm doing very different things, but I'm very proud of them, and I'm using my knowledge to empower women and to share that strength. But I also want them to know that that wasn't exactly how it was. Like at the beginning of this conversation earlier, it's like, no, that was learned and that was a decision.
Yeah.
So that's like the biggest thing that I try and teach anybody. It's like, look, I am no different than you in the way that we have the same opportunity every day. I just made a decision, and I kept making that same decision, and it continued to grow. Perseverance, consistency, whatever you want to call it, it's the same application, discipline, and consistency. So I always just think about how like, I mean, I didn't have that, so it's kind of wild to think about that it's
It's
still
now what
there.
you're, yeah, and what you're known
Right.
for in a way. Like that's pretty cool
I'll
that you
take
never used to have it,
it.
and now that's what people look to you for. So
Yeah, and I love that because it shows that
yeah, very cool.
you can do it. Yeah, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Okay, so one thing that we ask everybody, Christmas is we try to get, and there's lots of things here that people are going to take away anyway. But let's say if there's someone out there who's looking to kind of build some influence, build a fan base, any of those things. I mean, considering kind of your background and some of the things you're doing now, what would be a couple of steps? Like if someone's thinking of first steps as to, okay, what could I do? Do you have a couple of recommendations for them?
Um, yeah, and this is first, contact me. We'll talk.
Yeah.
But ultimately, really, like, you just have to. It's such a buzzword for a while, and I think that it just got overdone. Like, it's kind of like Instagram is now like so polished. Stop
Mhm.
being polished. Mess up. Be weird. Be quirky. Like, just you have to find you and what you love so much, and become obsessed with it. So become obsessed with you and your like legacy and your goal and what you want, and everything that you decide from there will fall into place because it's all based on that intention. And people, it takes time. People want it overnight, and there's all the algorithm hacks and stuff like that. We won't even get into that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, in order to like really what you want to build your fan base for whatever reason, you have to be known for something specific. And hopefully that specific is you, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that are like, oh, well, I'm really good with the moms and I'm really good with this and that. And I have the list and I go, okay, great. But like, what are you, why? Like, why do you want to appeal to everybody? That's like, I just want to be liked in high school. Well, I wasn't,
Yeah.
but I just teach them, I'm like, people are going to come to you for what you do or how you make them feel or like something that you thrive. So if you don't love it, don't do it. Like, you will hate it real fast.
Yeah, and well, and that's great advice for basically anything. I mean, that's whatever a job or anything that you're in is that eventually you will not be able to stand doing it. So, um,
And
so
it'll burn quickly.
it will, like, it might be great for a little while, but it won't be long before you're not going to want to be there anymore.
No.
If people are looking at being able to contact you, like they said, and maybe if that's something they want to do, but also follow kind of what you're doing, what your companies are doing, what are some of the best ways to do that, Christmas?
I'm kind of still on all the platforms, christmasabbott.com. Instagram is Christmas Abbott. My agency is catalentagency.com.
Yeah.
I really love our branding, and it's true. It's like an elevated look because it's not the traditional agency for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just like reach out, send a
Yeah.
message on any of the platforms. I mean, I answer them. They're like, this isn't really Christmas. I'm like, no, it is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is. Yeah.
Well, that I mean, that what we'll do here too is we'll put all that in the show notes. So people, if you missed that for some reason, just go into the show notes, click through, and yeah, make sure that you get in contact because there's some great stuff there. So I know you have been super busy lately and lots of big things going on. So first of all, thanks so much for taking the time today. I'm sure people took away a lot from this Christmas. Appreciate it.
Jamie, you're always amazing. And thank you so much for your patience and
Oh,
consistency. Hey, look, hey, hey guys.
no
Here's an
problem.
example. No, you were really wonderful, and I appreciate you reaching out and just following up and just being there because it was you've seen my journey over the year, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that so much. So thank you.
No problem at all. And again, everybody should make sure they check out Christmas's stuff. Some great stuff there. And again, hopefully we'll talk again sometime in the near future. And good luck with everything. But and to everybody
Absolutely. Thank
else,
you.
again, we'll talk soon on Big Idea, Big Moves. Thanks, Christmas.
Thank you.